Welcome to Life Mastery Radio with Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey, the show that dives into the science of higher consciousness with inspiring topics such as abundance, intention, health, manifestation, love, and transformation. Join Todd, Jackie, and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery. It's all right here with stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Now, here's your hosts, Todd and Jackie.
Hey, it's another groovy day, and man, oh man, it's really groovy because I got a really cool show that's not only going to maybe apply to you, but I know it's going to apply to me. More news at 11 coming up. Welcome to Life Master Radio, the talk show that brings you great thoughts and ideas for you to use on your very own life mastery journey. And as always, I have my co-host with me today, Jackie Bailey. Hi, Jackie. Big smile on her face. She's doing all kinds of cool things in the world. What's the latest? What's the update? I see you're advertising the kids speaking club again and getting that all fired up. That never has gone away, but you must be repopulating it.
We are reformatting it, actually.
Oh.
Speak-a-boom is now the way all kids will come into our programs through membership in Speak-a-boom, which is no longer a gavel club, by the way. It is our own club. And from Speak-a-boom, then there are two other levels, depending upon how much they want to speak. So the Speak Tank Collaborative is the next level of membership, where they can work in groups to do community service projects, or they can create podcasts like what we're doing, or write books, or create courses or classes, depending upon their genius. And then the next level is the Pro Speak and Influencer stage, and that's for the kids that so many of them we already have that want to get out there and speak to live audiences, to speak on summits, to do keynotes, TED Talks. You name it. So we've got this membership program going on. Many of our kids are speaking on a summit next week. It is the Conscious Book Writer Summit, and because they are authors themselves, our 4 or 5 panel members are going to be talking about what it was like to be 12 or 13 or 14 years old and write a book. So we're going to be on that. And then I'm doing a monthly mastermind course called Speaker Circle. And that is for adults, actually, who want to get out there and speak. That'll be 1 hour twice a month, where we can get together and work through the process of applying to speak, working on your message, developing that even more, even your bio and your title and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm actually going to do a TV show starting next Thursday. 6 episodes of a TV show, and we'll be having some guests come on to talk about their genius when it comes to speaking.
I'm gonna start calling you the Energizer Bunny, because this thing is just evolving, but now it's evolving into something that's really cool. This is really becoming a homeschool or a home specialty school, right?
Well, you know what? I do think that the homeschool audience is prime for what we're doing, because Speak-a-boom now has 4 different clubs to it. We have Speak-a-boom East, Speak-a-boom West, Speak-a-boom Oceania, and Speak-a-boom UK. So you can join from wherever you are in the world and find a convenient time to be a member of the club.
When did all this happen? How come I feel like I've been left in the dust?
It's been a process. So
Very cool.
Anyway, it is really cool. And so today we've got the Speak-a-boom East and West meeting later on today. On Tuesday, we had the Speak-a-boom Oceania. And then tomorrow is the UK version of it. So yeah, lots of stuff going on.
If you got a young one that has that yearning, and it's not even if they have it. All kids have the ability to speak what's on their mind. We all know this, right? We all know this, but guiding and molding and nurturing that to be productive is what Jackie does. And it is amazing to watch these kids speak from their heart and, just get excited about things that excite them. Yeah.
And they have so many great perspectives. Like, so this is the Parenting Owner's Manual, right? And This is where 8 of our students were authors of this book. And so they give their perspectives on parenting. You know, mom and dad, what are you doing? That's great. And from my perspective, mom and dad, what could you do differently? Right.
Yeah.
So we can learn so much from the kids. And because they are being raised in so many different ways than we were. I mean, you and I didn't ever have to worry about a cell phone. We maybe had a machine that would take a message for us when we were out, and we could
I
listen
had
to
tin
that.
cans and string.
Right? So we're in this unique time frame where we've got dinosaurs like us who grew up without all the technology. We've got the youngins that are coming in only knowing a device from the moment they're born in their hand. And then we've got their parents who came into use of technology somewhere in their teenage years, and they're parenting with it. So we've got all these 3 different generations right now that can learn so much from each other, but we also need to value what each other's bringing. And the only way to do that is to have conversations about it. So it's kind of exciting time period.
Want to know more? Google Jackie Bailey. You'll come up with a plethora of interesting things, but all roads lead to Jackie. So if you Google, you can get a hold of her and you can find out more information. That is so cool. I am so
Lead
impressed.
project.
Speak Feed Lead Project. Yep. Speakfeedlead.org. I am blown up. Seems like the wheels are turning faster and faster every day. I want to remind our listeners that today's show page is at www.lifemasterradio.com. Any links that we talk about will be there. We already have the show page up for today and links to our guest, amazing guest who wrote an amazing book. And while you're on that website, www.lifemasterradio.net, sign up for our newsletter. Jackie produces a newsletter once a week. It highlights who's been on the show, who's coming on the show, and she always writes a really nice review about the show we just did. So it's a great way to stay informed with all things life mastery. Some things might not apply to you, some things might. Like today, a lot of today's show applies to me. So stay tuned. We're going to talk more about it. What else am I forgetting, Jackie? I think that's about it. You ready for the show?
I am so ready. You did a great job introducing all of the stuff we've got going on and how to get in touch with us and stay in tune with us. So I'm ready for the show. It's going to be great.
Lastly, YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. Over 300 shows are in our YouTube channel. You can scan through all of our titles, give you an indication of what we're talking about, and all of those titles apply to everything that's life mastery. So check us out. We're on YouTube, Life Mastery Radio with Todd and Jackie. Okay, our guest today is coming to us all the way. This is amazing. We're almost to the year 2024, and our guest today is sitting in a comfy chair in Bombay, India. He's coming to us live, and his name is Danny Carroll. And after following a cathartic healing experience in 2012, he has focused on mind-body healing protocols for the last 10 years. Danny discovered a new body of medical knowledge called Germanic Healing Knowledge, or GHK for short. Germanic New Medicine, GNM, developed by a German medical doctor, Reiki Gerd Hammer. I know I got the last name right, but we'll get with Danny here in a minute. I should have reviewed that. He lived from 1935 to 2017 and has spent the last 7 of his years using the practice to help people with chronic and terminal health conditions. He wrote a book that grabbed my attention. Little did I know why it grabbed my attention, but he wrote a book. It's called Terminal Cancer is a Misdiagnosis. Discover a palliative care alternative medicine you can survive, by Danny Carroll, based on the findings of Dr. Hammer. Danny, I was going to call you Dr. Danny, but you're not a doctor. You're what? You're a mouthpiece, right?
Yeah, I've spent my last 10 years in venture capital, right? So I'm a lawyer by education. and I've spent my working life in management consulting, asset management, and venture capital. So absolutely not. I'm not a doctor. Before I started this journey in about 2005, I had no history in either alternative or conventional medicine. I'm just a interested person in life.
It was a calling for you. Well, I have to give full disclosure. I booked this show, I think back in May or April. And believe it or not, in the beginning of August, I was diagnosed with throat cancer. It's right on the back of my tongue, right around the corner of your tongue as it goes down the throat. And it was creating a condition where I felt like I have, and you can tell from my voice, I feel like I have tonsillitis. My throat is really, really kind of swollen, and it takes a lot of ibuprofen to bring that down. But during the pre-show, I was talking to Danny about it, and he says, well, Todd, this is what he told me, just point blank. Well, Todd, you have a problem in your life that you're having a hard time swallowing, right, Doc? Or right, Danny?
Absolutely correct, Todd. Yeah, and if it affects your tongue, it's related to your ability to speak as well, right? So,
Interesting. Okay, so with that little titillating tidbit,
That's amazing.
Danny, let's go back and let's take the audience back to where you discovered all of this, because it's a very interesting story, because you've had cancer a couple of times, right?
Many.
Okay, so let's go back to what started you on this journey to write this book, and then we'll come back to
Todd.
then it will make sense. It'll make sense more about what you told us.
I put up a teaser.
That's right.
Nice teaser, Todd, as well. So we have to go, Jackie, we have to go back to 2005. I'm 18 years down this journey. I had a friend in Bombay, a colleague and a friend, who was diagnosed with cancer. She couldn't afford the treatment. She had no insurance. So I ran a marathon in Bombay. I raised a lot of money for her treatment. And when she went into hospital, I mean, she was delighted, right? But when she went into hospital, she looked fit and fine. Whatever they said, she had cancer, but you never would have known. And she used to message me from hospital when she started chemotherapy treatment. She used to message me from hospital saying, Danny, I don't know what these doctors are doing, but it feels like they're putting poison in my veins.
They are.
Right? So I, in my ignorance, strongly encouraged her to continue the treatments. And basically within 3 rounds of chemo, she died. And I was devastated, right? I funded her treatment and I ensured her compliance to the treatment. And when she died, I was absolutely devastated. So at this time, I would have been in my mid-30s, no history in medicine. So I thought to myself, right, I'm going to search to the ends of the earth to find a better solution to this problem, i.e., I'm going to go and find the cure for cancer, right?
little thing, just a little
thing, right? 35, not a doctor, no history in medicine. And I thought, wow, nobody else seems to be able to solve the problem. I have a decent brain, so why don't I apply myself to it, right? So, as you do. So I started studying everything that moved, that looked like a potential solution. I studied nutritional healing, I think, for about 10 years. I studied an emotional healing remedy from the UK called the bark flower remedies. I think I studied that for 7 or 8 years. And then I dipped in and out of various modalities, spiritual healing, energy healing. I looked at all of the existing systems of homeopathy and Ayurveda, and I obviously looked at the conventional medicine systems as well. Now, the problem I found with all of these systems is, number one, that whenever I could be in a situation where I had 2 people, same diagnosis, you put them on the same protocols, and one lives and one dies, right? So And this happened on a continuous basis. And I was one of those horrible children, right? Why, right? And my parents used to hate
I know
it,
a guy like that.
I used to drive my parents nuts, right? And I never grew out of it, right? So I was why, and I was asking all of the leaders of these communities, right? But there was never any answers. Like, oh, it happens, Danny. I'm like, well, that's not a good answer, right? So I continued to try and find modalities that could answer the question. Now, in 2012, I had this cathartic healing experience. I had an issue where for 6 months I had my entire body was riddled with golf ball sized knots, right? In my calf muscles, in my thighs, in my arms, in my back. We could see these great big like golf balls in all over my body. And I was in physio, and what the physio would do, basically, he'd iron these knots out of my muscles. And what they do is they use their elbows, right? Again, right, and it's excruciating, right? Your muscles are all bruised and everything.
Yeah.
You go back 2 days later, and all the knots have come back again, right? So I was on this like excruciating merry-go-round for about 6 months. And at the time, I was dating an American diplomat, and she was in Bombay on a 2-year posting, and her next posting was in Santiago de Chile, right? So I split up with my ex-wife in 2011, and I was in a new relationship. We agreed that when she left Bombay, that we would terminate our relationship, because of course nobody in their right mind has a long distance relationship between South America and Southeast Asia, right? But the problem we hit was that because we had a no commitments, no pressure relationship for a couple of years, we'd become soulmates, and when it came to ending the relationship, we couldn't end it. Right. So on a Friday evening, just before she was due to leave, we sat down and we had a turkey talk, right? We had a candid discussion about the state of our lives, and we agreed that we couldn't terminate the relationship. So we said, okay, let's try this ridiculous long distance relationship and see if it fizzles out naturally. And when I woke up on a Saturday morning, all of the knots that were in my body for a 6-month period magically disappeared, right? Now, I didn't know why they'd come, and I didn't know why they'd gone, right? All I knew was the only difference between Friday night and Saturday morning was that my girlfriend and I had agreed that we wouldn't terminate our relationship. Okay. Now, fast forward many years of studying Germanic healing knowledge, and what I discovered, basically those knots were put there because I was going in the wrong direction in life, right? I was planning to terminate the relationship with my soulmate, who is, by the way, now my wife, and still my soulmate. Right.
So it wasn't necessarily, it was just the thoughts, right? Let's just kind of talk about this a little. It was the thought of that occurring. It wasn't real, right? So it's your mind's subconscious ability to create a thought and affect the rest of your body.
Yeah, as we get into the detail, you don't sit there with your conscious mind and say, oh, let me create lots of knots in my body, right? So that all of these what Dr. Hummer called biological programs run in your subconscious mind, right? And when you face a challenge in life, then the subconscious mind basically triggers various different biological programs in order to help you to address that issue. And in this particular case, my subconscious mind triggered the let's cover his body in knots so he can barely walk biological program, so that it would slow me down from running in the wrong direction, which essentially was to plan to terminate the relationship with my soulmate. When we agreed that we would not terminate that relationship, then problem solved, and then they just disappeared as magically as they came. So at the time, I didn't know why they came. I didn't know why they left. All I knew was that my mind had the ability to both cripple me and gift me back my health. Bang, just like this, right? And it was magical. It was a truly cathartic healing experience. So I had a suspicion that if my mind could create these big golf ball sized knots in my body and then they just magically disappeared, that there could be a similar mechanism between cancer and the mind. So I was planning to do a PhD. I was looking for a university that had both a medical and a psychology specialization. And I was planning to build a bridge between the two departments, so I could explore whether this idea of the mind-body connection for cancer. And in the process of looking for that university to host the PhD, I found this German medical doctor who was reported to have a 92% success rate, healing primarily terminally ill cancer patients using a form of mind-body medicine. So I'm like, okay, this sounds like what I'm looking for. And here's an interesting one, right? I mean, I'd been studying alternative modalities for many years. And what I've learned over that time is that the more potent the modality is, especially if it's an alternative modality, then the more vitriol you find online, right? Because I guess people are trying to protect their pie, right?
Right. Unfortunately.
You know, I mean, there are websites in America. If you go to Health Nut News, right, you can follow a website that basically tracks the unusual deaths of cancer researchers and, you know, alternative medical practitioners who sort of commit suicide by shooting themselves in the head twice and stuff like that, right? So, so anyway, when I discovered this modality, the level of vitriol online was just off the charts. I mean, I'd never seen so much, you know, anti-Semite murderer, yada yada, all of this sort of stuff, right? And for me, that was a lead indicator that there's got to be some serious value under the hood, right? So I'm like, okay, I think I might be onto something here. So that's when I'm like, okay, time to go under the hood, right? So I've been under that hood for 11 years now. What I've been doing is I've spent the last 11 years. I don't believe anything that anybody says, right? And I suggest you do the same. Don't believe anything I say. Don't believe anything that anybody tells you. Test it for yourself, right? I spent 11 years testing this modality, and you shouldn't believe until you have personal experience of using it. You shouldn't believe it.
Looks like I got some work cut out for me here.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you should look, what I suggest to people, look at it and say, oh, that's interesting. You know, stay cynical, stay skeptical, and look at it with an open mind and study it. And when you start getting personal experience, you can build conviction through personal experience. It's the only way to build conviction.
Well, let's tease people a little bit further, because you said Dr. Hammer had a 93% success rate with terminally ill cancer patients, or terminally ill patients, we could probably say. And today that's all the people that you work with, right? Isn't that, I mean, people come to you with terminally ill problems, and those are the people that you're working with mostly. And so maybe you could throw out there, how is your success rate?
Yeah. So I think I don't really count, to be honest. I've never charged for consulting, right? So I don't make any money from it, and you know,
that's even cooler.
And my administration skills are terrible, right? But I mean, I don't know, maybe I've got like a 50, 60, 70% success rate. Yeah, I mean, my original objective, Todd, was to save one life, right? To set off the bad karma from the life I felt like I'd taken. So now, you know, now I've helped hundreds or maybe thousands. I don't know. You know, I look through my phone, and if I put cancer as a search term in my phone, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. Right. So I mean,
so what is...
let me give you the background to Dr. Hummer, right? Because this is fascinating. So he was a traditional medical doctor, right? He was what you call an internist. So he was a research specialist. He's actually the youngest doctor to ever qualify to practice medicine in Germany. So he's sharpest tool in the kit, right? Sharpest tool in the shed. In 1978, he was in his late 40s. His 19-year-old son was shot and murdered. 2 months after his son was murdered, he was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of testicular cancer called a testicular teratoma, with metastasis to the stomach. Right now, he was a traditional medical doctor, so he didn't know if there was any causal link between his son getting shot and murdered and him getting a cancer diagnosis, and that too on a reproductive organ. Right, so he was given a 1% chance to survive. He had surgery. He had a testicle removed and part of his stomach removed, but he didn't have chemotherapy or surgery, chemotherapy or radiation. So I think most doctors don't, more than 90%, I believe, but that you can research for yourself. At the time, he was the head of a cancer research unit in Germany, a university associated to Munich University. And he was the head of the gynecological oncology unit, and he was working with 200 late stage female cancer patients. So what he wanted to do, I mean, he was in his late 40s, right? Otherwise, he's a healthy guy. All of a sudden, his son dies, and 2 months later, he gets an aggressive tumor, cancer on his testicle, right, reproductive organ. So he thought that it was almost certain that there was some connection, right, because it couldn't just be coincidence. So he started talking to these female cancer patients to find out whether they'd gone through a similar type of life crisis or emotional trauma before they got cancer. And out of 200 had, right? And wind forward 39 years of research working directly with over 50,000 cancer patients. And what this doctor basically learned is that the tumor on his testicle basically was functional tissue, and it had a biological purpose and a biological function, right? So his son was shot and murdered. Then he got a tumor on his testicle. What is a testicle for? Basically to produce sperm and testosterone, right? So he got the tumor on his testicle. The purpose and function of that tumor basically was to increase his sperm and testosterone production, so he had a better chance of getting his wife pregnant, so he could replace the child he just lost. Okay, and when he understood that fundamental connection, basically he then unraveled the same process, not only for every type of cancer, but every type of disease, right? And what he concluded after this 39 years of research basically is that cancer is essentially, it's a survival biological program. Cancer is there to help us, and it's not there to hurt us, right? It's there when we have headwinds in life, when we have a challenge in life. Basically, nature will increase or decrease our capacity in order to help us to solve the problem. Okay, now when we see this in nature, we don't question it, right? So if you see a tree where the trunk is rubbing on a fence, the bark will become thicker. Or if you walk into a woodland and you see a tree, it will shoot sprouts up into the sky in order to get to the sunlight because it can't survive without it. When we see nature adjusting like that, we recognize that it's trying to survive in its environment, right? Now, we operate the same way. I mean, if you go to a cold place and you find street dogs, I mean, they'll all have long hair, right? You go to a hot place and they all have short hair, right? I mean, that's the way nature adjusts, and it works the same for plants, it works the same for animals, it works the same for humans, right? But we haven't put those pieces together. So take another example. Let's take like mammary gland breast cancer, right? So we got an example for the women to understand. If you look at the purpose, the biological purpose of a mammary gland is to lactate, okay, to produce milk, right? Now, a woman only lactates when she's pregnant and when she's nursing, okay? As soon as she stops nursing, then the mammary glands will dry up and she'll stop lactating, okay? Now, the breast fundamentally is a nurturing piece of equipment. Before our modern day society, a breast was the only thing that a woman had in order to be able to nurse a sick loved one. Okay, so say you look at a situation, a woman's walking along the road with her friend. She's got a 5-year-old child. The child runs, she's not paying attention. The child runs into the road and gets hit by a car. Right now, all of a sudden, the woman has a sick child. The child's 5 years old and she's no longer lactating. Right. So what nature will do is nature will basically switch back on her ability to lactate so that she can offer a breast to a sick child so she can nurse a child back to health again. Okay, now today, that's what we call mammary gland or globular breast cancer, right? And then we'll chop the woman's breast off and give her chemo and radiation and probably then we'll kill her. But all nature's doing, basically, the only way that historically, the only way that a woman had the ability to nurse a sick child was basically to offer the child her breast, right? Now we're so far away from the realities or the design of nature, people think that's absurd. What do you mean you offer your breast to a 5-year-old? I mean, the same would happen if your partner got sick, right? And you'd get a lump in the other breast, then you could offer your breast to the partner, right? But today we think that's absurd. But that's nature's design, right? And so what people do, right, is, and this is where it all starts getting a bit messy and wrong. The cause of the mammary gland breast cancer is the child getting hit by a car and getting sick, right? So the cause of the problem is the accident and the child getting sick. The way that works, right, is that hits the brain, and then the brain says, "Oh, we have a crisis. We need some milk in order to be able to nurse the child back to health again." Right? Activate the breast so that the mammary gland comes back to life, so she can offer the breast to the child, nurse the child back to health again. And when the child's healthy again, then that biological program will get switched off, right? In the same way, when she stops nursing, then that biological program gets switched off. Once the child is back to health again, then the child doesn't need the breast milk anymore, right? So, but then, you know, what happens typically is that, you know, we'll in the process of the child getting well again, the mother will either have her breast removed and have chemotherapy and say, "Oh yeah, you know, the surgery and the radiation and that, you know, or chemotherapy solved the problem." No, it did not. You know, or if they're a little bit more wayward thinking, they say, "Okay, I'm not going to do chemo. I'm going to go on a vegan diet, right? Or I'm going to go and do Reiki, or, you know, do homeopathy or Ayurveda or whatever." Okay, unless and until that child is sick, you can run around town with your underwear on your head, and it will make no difference whatsoever, right? You can do your vegan diet, you can go and have chemo, you can have your breast chopped off, do what you like, right? Until the child is well again. That biological program will run because it has a purpose. Okay, and when the purpose has been fulfilled, i.e., the child is back to health again, that purpose will switch off again, right? So, and you can see how this works, right? Now, let's say the woman goes in, she has her breast removed, right, and the child's still sick. Then we have this concept called recurrent breast cancer. Recurrent breast cancer is where you have the breast removed, right? And the cancer still comes back even though the breast is no longer there. Okay, it doesn't matter whether the breast is there or not. The biological program runs in your brain, right? This is the control center. So whether the breast is there or not, it makes no difference. Okay, now you look at, there's a concept in medicine called phantom limb pain, right? So what is phantom limb pain? Phantom limb pain. Okay, I get gangrene in my toes and I have my leg amputated below the knee. After I have the leg amputated, I still get pain in my foot, even though it's no longer there. Okay, or I have ulcerative colitis, right? And I've got terrible colon cramps. So I go and have surgery and I have my colon removed. And after I have the colon removed, I still experience cramps, right? So how does that happen? Well, it happens because the biological program runs in your brain. The pain program runs in your brain. It doesn't matter whether you chop the foot off or you chop the breast off or you chop off the colon and you remove it. You still feel the pain, because the pain runs in the brain and not in the organ, right? The cause of the problem is the life crisis that triggers the problem. That hits the brain triggers the organ, okay? The organ is just a symptom of the problem. We have this concept in business, right? And this is drilled into you in day one in business. You can only ever solve a problem by addressing the cause of the problem, not the symptom of the problem, right? In medicine, and in healthcare, we don't practice that, right? All of our healing modalities, both conventional and alternative, without exception, are all systems of symptomatic treatment, right? The cause of the breast cancer was a child getting hit by the car. The child's sick. Unless and until the child gets well again, the breast cancer will run. You can say you can go and do your vegan diet, or you can, you can go and take your homeopathy, or you can Ayurveda, or, whatever you want to do, or your chemotherapy or your surgery, whatever you do. But whilst that child is sick, that biological program will run. So if you want to address health problems at the organ level by addressing the symptom, the only real option available to you is to have your head cut off. And that is not ideal. That is not, I do not recommend that you have your head cut off, because it's the only way you can address the symptom, because the biological programs all run in your brain. The organs are just a symptom of the problem. So it doesn't matter what you do with the symptom, whilst the problem exists, and you don't solve the problem at the cause of the problem in the same way we do in business. If you don't adapt to your health, then you can never solve the problem. You can cut bits out and whatever and do what you like, right? It makes no difference whatsoever.
So
Okay.
Danny, now, okay, go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
So the solution is not to cut the head off.
That's not, Todd.
Number one,
It's
don't
not
remove your head.
ideal, especially if you're as pretty as you.
Handsome. Let's use the word handsome.
Okay, handsome.
It's more politically correct,
Oh.
Okay, so the solution isn't to cut the head off. So what are some of the techniques to drill down and figure out where the root cause is? Here we are with that root cause term, but obviously there's a root cause because the brain thinks it needs to solve a problem.
Correct.
Well, before you answer that, Danny, I'm wondering if this could be metaphorical as well. Like, okay, so taking the example of the breast cancer appearing because the child is injured, but it's because the woman wants to save, she wants to nurture. Could that same process happen when a marriage is in trouble, or when another type of relationship is in trouble and the woman wants to nurture it, wants to heal it? Can that same result of a cancer, in quotation marks again, occur because of something not related to an actual child?
Oh yes. Oh okay. Yeah. So we have, depending on which way your brain's wired, we have one side of our body that gets affected by relationships with our mother and our children, and we have the other side of our body that gets affected by everybody else, right? So if she has a conflict with her child or a mother, then it will affect what we call a mother-child breast. So if she's right-handed, it'll affect her left breast. Okay, if she's left-handed, it'll affect her right breast. So it sort of does a switch, right? So the breast cancer, mammary gland breast cancer, is triggered by what we call either a nest or a care conflict. I mean, it doesn't have to be for a human being, right? It can be for an animal. If you have a favorite puppy that you treat like a child, right? We often do. Then even a conflict, if your animal gets sick, it can trigger breast cancer. Of course, yeah, right. Absolutely.
So the question then is, how do you go about determining that? Which I think you started to actually answer a little bit.
Yeah. So one point I haven't made here, which is critically important, is that you can only heal yourself. There is no second option, right? Okay, you can take drugs and you can suppress symptoms, okay? But if you want to heal yourself, you can only heal yourself. Okay? If the child gets hit by a car, the mother has to help the child to get well again. When the child gets well again, she solved that problem, right? But only she can solve that problem. Nobody else can solve the problem, right? So rule number one, you can only heal yourself. Rule number two, that you can only heal yourself if you understand the cause of the problem. Right. If you address the symptoms of the problem, why are we in a situation where we have chronic illness? We have an issue where we're chronic illness because all of our conventional medicine and all of our alternative medicine modalities are all systems of symptomatic treatment. Okay, if that mother gets the breast cancer because the child got sick when she goes on a vegan diet, she's treating, you know, the body as a symptom, right? Or if she has surgery, she has a breast chopped off, the breast is the symptom. The cause of the problem is the child getting sick, right? Until you resolve the problem of the child getting sick, which is a cause of the problem, you never solve that problem. So you can go on you can have surgery, chemo, radiation, you'll still get recurrent breast cancer. Remove your breast makes no difference. Okay, remove your colon makes no difference. Cut the leg off makes no difference. Right? So you have to understand you have to understand that you can only heal yourself by resolving the cause of the problem, which is the life crisis or the conflict that caused the problem to start. Now, how do you do that? Okay, well, easiest way to do that is if you sign up to my website, danny-carroll.com, you can download a 400-page book that has the cause to every disease known to man, right? So what this medical doctor did, Dr. Hummer, is that he essentially unraveled the biological code. He is now he's now written, there's something called the Scientific Chart of Germanic New Medicine, which lays out every cause of disease known to man. And you can identify the cause of the problem in terms of the life crisis that's caused that problem with a sniper's rifle. This, after looking for 20 years, this is the only modality that I've been able to find that lays out the cause of illness with a sniper's rifle. I've not found a second modality. There are other thinkers in this space: Bernie Siegel, Louise Hay, Bruce Lipton, sort of. But it's still a 40,000 foot process. Bruce goes down, but Bruce starts at the cellular level because that was his specialization, right? I mean, you have to start at the top, not the bottom, if you want to really be able to map the entire biology as to which life crisis causes a toothache or a runny nose or a cancer or, you know, arthritis, osteoporosis, autism, Down syndrome, etc. And what Dr. Hummer has done is he's laid out the cause for all of those conditions. So once you understand the cause of the problem, you have a chance to solve it.
A chance.
Yeah.
Just a chance?
Well, I mean, what I've learned over the years, Todd, is, I mean, you know, if you download the book from my website, you get knowledge, right? So you say, okay, I know if I've got a sore throat, I have a problem I can't swallow, right? Now,
that is just way too simple for me to digest. You know,
that's way too simple for you to
throat
digest.
cancer, and so the solution is you have a problem that you can't swallow. And I'm like, oh man.
Now, okay, now learning how to, so there's knowledge and wisdom, Todd, right?
That's true.
So knowledge, if you read a book, you watch a video, you'll learn, you'll get knowledge. Say, oh, okay, I know my throat cancer has been caused because I have a problem that I can't swallow. And it's also affecting my tongue, which means it has an element of talking related to the problem I can't swallow. Okay, so you now know the cause of the problem, but sometimes it takes time to go through. And what is wisdom? Wisdom is taking that knowledge and learning to use it and solve the problem, right? So
or being 62 years old.
or being 62 years old, absolutely. So
wisdom comes with age, right?
What I learned over time is that, you know, it takes some practice. It takes, you know, to learn how to solve these problems. And I mean, there's nuance, right? There's always nuance.
Are there techniques? Are there techniques to help you? Okay, so you go and look at Hammer's self-diagnosis, I guess, is what you call it, or his direction. And then what techniques can a person use to help drill down? Okay, how do I figure out? I got lots of problems. How do I figure out which one is giving me I can't swallow?
So you have to go back to when the problem started, right? So the problem started, for example, at the beginning of August. You have to look at the beginning of August and find out what's going on in my life at that point in time. And then that's your starting point of investigation. Ideally, the quicker you do this, the better.
Right.
Now I'll give you one of
okay,
my.
let's just back up the truck here just for a minute, because I was diagnosed at the beginning of August, but the problem, right? The problem manifested itself in, let's say, June. It took me that long to get in to see a medical person to send me to the next medical person.
Before that, though, you were having a little pain and swelling before that, right?
Some
Like
glands. These
March,
glands
April,
were
May,
enlarged a little bit, but
yeah.
it wasn't until I got the sore throat that it started me down this path, and that was probably June, July.
Okay.
So then your point of investigation, I mean, for you, my point of investigation would go back to when the glandular issue started.
Okay.
So you have to then rebuild your life as to what was going on at that point in time in order to be able to start eliminating the potential issues that could cause that problem.
And this
Okay,
could
now
be reworded to say there is a solution to a problem that Todd is resisting taking on. Is that another?
so yeah, I mean the best way to approach a problem in life is always a real life resolution, right? So let's say you identified a problem, you know, that you can't swallow, that you haven't got a job, or you don't have a particular role to play, that you live and die for, and that you want back in your life. The best way to solve that problem is to get it back in your life, right? And then that's a real life resolution to the problem. The other way to solve a problem is to change your view on something, right? I mean, it's a problem for you at the moment because it's important to you, right? So then you have to reassess. If for any reason you can't practically solve a problem, then you basically have to say to yourself, right, okay, what are the other ways I can solve this problem? And the other way to solve it is to change your view on how okay, maybe it's not so important, right? Maybe well, I'm done, dusted, done with it, whatever. I mean, I can let that go and I can move on and I can try something new, right? So when you downgrade the importance of it to you, then or ideally you say, okay, I'm done with it, right? I'm going to move on. Then you solve that problem by no longer wanting for it, because the problem is you can't swallow, right? Because you want something that you can't get, right? So you change it when you change your view on it. That's the other way to manage resolving a problem. Just, I mean, if you know, think about it, right? When you was a child, you played with toys, right? And now you look back on it, you don't want to play with toys anymore, right? I mean, or not the same toys at least, right? So you grow out of something. So whenever you look back on something, you can say, oh, maybe I've just grown out of that and I'm not going to do it anymore. So therefore I don't want it. And it's not important to me anymore. Once you do that, then you solve the problem as well, right? Because now it's no longer important to you and you don't want it. So those are other ways. Those are other ways to solve the problem.
Is it a big problem? Is it a small problem? Is it an issue? I mean, to me, I'm thinking this would have to be a pretty sizable problem.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah, it'd probably be a pretty sizable problem if you've had that restrictive feeling and the sore throat and all of that stuff for a period of time. Not only is it a sizable problem, but it's probably still on running as well, right? I'll give an example. In 2019, I got cancer in my jaw, right? I had trouble I couldn't find out what triggered. I was getting this tumor growing on my jaw, right? And it's and you know, this is a challenging area because it's got all of what we call germ layers. So the problem can happen when I resolve a problem, or the problem can happen when the problem starts, right? So anyway, it took me quite a long time to find the problem. It turned out the problem that caused this was a 5-second fight with my wife, right? Over American politics, right? She screamed at me, turn that video off, right? We're both alphas, right? And we have a permission-based relationship. She doesn't tell me what to do, I don't tell her what to do, whatever, you know. So forget shouting at me. She never even tells me what to do, right? So it triggered this cancer in my jaw. So it took me a long time to find it. By the time I found the cause of the problem, and in this particular area, I switched another problem solving way, Todd, basically is when you identify the cause of the problem and you connect the cause of the problem with the symptoms of the problem, you can switch cancer off like a light switch, right? So when I found the cause of the problem, oh, okay, yeah, it was a month or so back. That was when my wife screamed at me, and she's never done that before, and she'd never do it again, right? So I switched the cancer off, right, and it stopped growing, okay, and then the pain went. Okay, second phase, so the tissue's been added. All of our layers in our body operate very similar to a menstrual cycle, where tissue's added, tissue's removed, or tissue's removed, tissue's added. So tissue was added to my jaw. I got a tumor on my jaw, right? Same as tissue added to the breast, tissue added to the testicle. It's added. Once the job's done, it's removed, right? So tissue was added to my jaw. When it's being removed, it's removed by something called TB mycobacterium. What it does is it actually rots the flesh, right? So it removes that by rotting. Now I had the taste and smell of rotting flesh in my mouth for like a 4-month period, which wasn't very pleasant, right?
No.
Right. And what happened in the process is all my teeth fell out and my jaw got destroyed, right? So I had no teeth on this side, my jaw was destroyed, and I ended up having a 5-hour surgery with a bone graft and implants to have my jaw rebuilt, and so all these teeth are false here, right? They're all false teeth. All my teeth fell out. So I had a 5-hour surgery with a bone graft and implants, 35 stitches in my jaw. Okay, I took a painkiller at the time of the surgery, and a painkiller of the night of the surgery. And I woke up next morning. I hate taking painkillers, right? So pain has a purpose, right? And you can test this for yourself. The purpose of pain is something you've got. If you've got an area of the body that's broken, the body needs the time, space, and energy to heal, right? So if you cut your finger in the kitchen, right? If you don't touch it when it swells up, right? If you don't touch it, then you'll feel no pain, right? But as soon as you start doing the dishes and you put your hand in the hot water, it goes ba-dum, 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 like this, right? Because the body is saying, excuse me, this is broken. Let it be. Give it some time, let it heal. Once it's healed, then you can use it again, right? So if you don't use it, you'll have no pain.
That makes sense.
So I've had this like 5-hour surgery, right? I have 35 stitches in my jaw, ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. Right now, I've switched off pain from IBS and backache and rheumatoid arthritis and all sorts of things, right? But these are all emotional conflicts. I've never switched off pain from physical trauma before, right? So I'm sitting here thinking, right, what's the purpose of pain? Purpose of pain is to give it time, space, and energy to heal, right? And I'm thinking, oh, great, I've got no teeth, right? So I can't chew anything because I've got no teeth. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe I can switch this pain off. So I had a discussion with my subconscious mind, and I said, subconscious mind, the purpose of pain is to give something the time, space, and energy to heal. I've got no teeth, so I can't chew. I'm not going to use this side of my mouth. I'm going to give it the time it needs to heal. Switch off the pain, right? Bang, pain gone. Right? Yes. Bang, just gone. Okay. Yeah. Amazing, right? So then what happens, right? I mean, I slept for between 20 to 22 hours a day for 3 weeks, right? I just slept, okay? Now, but what happens, I got up, had a bite to eat, went to the bathroom, went back to sleep again. That was my life for like 3 weeks after surgery, right? But what happened, each time I ate, something would accidentally sort of go from this side and it actually go around that side, right? It switched around to the side I had the surgery on. So, as soon as the food went to the surgery side, then it's ba-dum, 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 and I'm like, oops, okay, and it was fairly intense pain, right? So I'm like, sorry, subconscious mind, that was an error, right? So then I said, okay, let's go back to our original deal. I will not use this side of my mouth. I will give it the time, space, and energy to heal. Switch off the pain. Bang, pain gone. So I went for a 5-hour reconstructive surgery. Slept for 3 weeks, and I went through the entire process with 0 painkillers and 0 pain.
Yeah,
and then
I've heard of that before.
I went and had the 35 stitches out after 3 weeks back at the doctor's, and the jaw had completely healed, and he was flabbergasted. And I no antibiotics during surgery, no painkillers, and then came out and went through the entire thing pain-free. It was quite extraordinary. You must think I'm nuts, right?
Oh, that is amazing, though.
No, Danny, I think we're gonna have you come back, especially to help follow my progress. I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission now.
I'm very happy to help you, Todd. We can get this done.
Well, yeah,
No problem.
I'm gonna be doing some reading and some looking, and we're gonna figure this thing out, Danny. And with your help, I'm sure I'm gonna kick it. This is just crazy.
Absolutely. I mean, Todd, put it this way, right? There is no other way you can solve the problem. There is no second option.
Well, yeah, there's a port, there's a feeding tube, there's radiation, there's chemotherapy. I mean,
make no difference.
Yeah.
It will not solve the problem. You might be able to temporarily suppress the symptoms, but it will not solve the problem.
No, I'm
you
kidding.
can never solve a problem by addressing the symptom. That's in business. It's drilled into us in day one, right?
I'm a business owner.
Yeah, exactly, right.
So
you get it, right? But for some reason we switch out when it comes to our health and to medicine, we switch that off, right? I mean, we're like, oh no, we can deal with the symptom when it comes to health, and we can solve the problem. I mean, engage your brains, right? I mean, the same principles apply to our health in terms of problem solving that apply to business. We just don't apply it, and I don't know why.
Tell us where people can connect with you. I know on the Life Mastery Radio webpage at www.lifemasterradio.com, there's a link to Danny's website. Is there anywhere else, Danny?
You can pick up my book,
There it is.
Cancer is a Misdiagnosis, on Amazon at the moment. That's in audiobook, Kindle version, paperback, hardback.
Wow.
This is on Amazon at the moment. There are other, I'm in the process, this is an introduction to Dr. Hummer's medical discoveries. I'm in the process of writing a 500+ book series that will have one book on every disease. Now, this is my book on atopic dermatitis. This is my book on breast cancer. This is my book on testicular cancer. These can all be read for free on my website. If you go to the tab called the Healing Tribune, you can read these for free. You can also buy them if you want to work on the Keep Danny Alive project. But there'll be 500 of these books. I'm in the process of putting a collaborative community book writing platform together, so we can all write these books together. So over the next
coming years. That's a big audacious goal. I thought Jackie had big audacious goals, but to write 500 books, that's a big audacious goal, Danny. That's very cool. You keep going, don't stop, because I'm right behind you and I don't want to step on you.
Yeah, 12 books a year. It should take me 38 to 40 years to do it, unless I can write more than one book a month.
He's already done the math.
Yeah. But I mean, I wrote some of these in a week. You can write them in a week, but it nearly killed me. But let's see.
I will say that terminal cancer is a misdiagnosis. I think it's 60 pages, right? It's a pretty short read.
It's very short read, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
marvelous.
design.
It's marvelous.
Well worth it.
Thank you.
Check it out. That's about all we have time for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you'll tell a friend about the show. I hope you'll go and check out our YouTube channel with all of the shows that we've done on all kinds of interesting topics. And let us know if you got enough out of today's show, or I'm pretty sure, Jackie, we're going to have to bring Danny back because there's a lot more to talk about.
Definitely. We didn't even scratch the surface of what he has to say.
Thank you, kind sir. Lastly, please make it a great day, because it's all about choice and to choose to heal from within. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to Life Mastery Radio. Join Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery through stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Visit their website, www.lifemasteryradio.com. Join their mailing list and be notified about upcoming guests. That's lifemasteryradio.com.